All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane 13, as we are about to get underway for the third and final stint for P1R's SEC October Enduro here at Kylami. We had a small field to start with, and it looks like we may have lost a few entrants due to the rash of disconnects we had earlier, but let's look at some of the drivers that will be taking part in this final stint. DeLeve is going to be in one of the two Dodge Vipers. ESV Karts is going to try to make it 3 stint wins in a row in the Dodge Viper. They are also trying to close down on the championship fight. They are going to be backed up by ESV Pipes, who is running the McLaren that will be trying to run rear gunner for the team. NDL Ardno is going to be in the Team Noodles number 420 machine. ZR Haya Cranky is going to be back as well in one of the ZR entries. EMC Bunter is back in the Motul McLaren, and NDL Avocado is going to try and wrap up a third place result overall today in his own Team Noodles McLaren. NWR Hyphen is back in the lone Chevrolet. NDL Cosmic is back in the lone BMW M8. It's not been a good time for them. However, they have not disconnected, so just off that fact, as long as they don't disconnect in the final stint, they're still on track for a top 10 result. HYR Otavio is in the lone Ford Mustang. This car actually brought home a 5th place result last stint, so that's been the best non-ESV given result for a Mustang for 3 months now. And then NDL Micro is going to be taking over the Ferrari entry. Only 11 drivers here for this final stint, so do be aware that there's really going to be almost no traffic whatsoever. And I'm going to be 100% honest, this is going to be very, very low energy for the majority of the event, I imagine. Strategy has pretty much been perfected. It's literally just softs all the way through. Pit every 15 minutes, roughly. Maybe you can go a little less. Maybe you can do 14 minutes and 30 seconds. But pit every 15 minutes or so, and you'll be fine. And 7 stops on the softs are fine. We have seen that 5-stop strategy using only medium tires can be competent, but it is not very ideal, to say the least. The best result that has earned has been a 4th, but that also might partially be because ESV is already guaranteed top 2 results just because, well, you know. But as we'll see the field loading onto the circuit momentarily here, it will be 2 more hours here at Kylami. A small field, but more importantly, I would argue than anything else, is that this is likely going to be where the championship fight gets wrapped up tonight. Assuming there is not a December Enduro that gets added to the season, this should be the end of the championship. As long as the Avocado entry does not have a disconnect, this should be it. This stint will also be completely done in the daytime, so be prepared for that as well. Because with this stint being completely in the daytime, flag to flag, that means that the McLarens are going to be at their best performance. For ESV Karts, he is going to have to deal with a lot of potential fighting from behind from Pipes and Avocado, so keep that in mind. So it is Dodge, McLaren, Ferrari, McLaren, Dodge, Mustang, BMW, Chevy, McLaren. So what does Pipes do? Does Pipes go and take the fight right to karts? In stint 1, it seemed like it was open season. Both teams were allowed to fight. Stint 2, it seemed like it was also open season. Both teams were allowed to fight. Are they going to be allowed to fight again here in stint 3 when the McLaren is likely going to be at its strongest at a daytime all the way through start to finish? Green flag, and we are underway here once more at Kylami. Oh, already, that was DeLeve who slid off into the dirt very late onto the straightaway there in Sector 2. But now they begin accelerating uphill to the top of the mountain. For Pipes, if he's really happy with his car, his best shot to try and get by Karts will be to try and out-drag him down the front straightaway, although Karts missed the ideal line there and briefly left the door open for Pipes. It's just that Pipes didn't have the power down fast enough to really take advantage of that. Now, neither Pipes or Karts ran in the last stint, so they're both going to have to try and get juiced up and comfortable again with these cars while on track. Avocado did run last stint though, so he knows what to expect. Micro drops tires off into the dirt farther back. But for now, the top 5 all stay. In fact, right now, the entire field stays relatively close to each other. And this is it. Down the straightaway. Already, Pipes looking to the inside. Pipes is going to make it a drag race with ESV Karts as they head down the front straightaway. Down into turn number 1. Heavy on the brakes. Who's it going to be? And it looks like there's a little bit of contact. The Dodge gets a chance to try and fight back. The McLaren has the ideal lane of choice though in turn 3. Power down out of 3. Drops a tire into the dirt and keeps the Dodge right underneath him. And now the Dodge is going to try and come back, but the Dodge doesn't have great speed. He has to go deep under brake if he wants this move. No! Door is shut on him. So Pipes to the top. Karts is second. Avocado third. Oh, Avocado gets hit from behind. Very nearly gets turned by Micro. Again, Micro is in his own fight. He's trying to secure third in points for his team. A good top 5 overall result here would definitely accomplish that. As they accelerate downhill once again. That is Haya Cranky right behind. They only remain ZR entry. To the inside goes Haya Cranky. Can he make it stick there? The first corner is very tight, but if you're on the outside, you have the ability to take some of the runoff and really get the power down, and that is exactly what Micro does, and he's going to use that to keep his Ferrari ahead of that McLaren for 4th for the moment. At the front, it is Pipes keeping Karts behind him. In the nighttime, at least, the Dodge was absolutely fantastic in keeping the tires under him. It was good in the day as well, but its real strength is in the night. But now that is all day to the end here, you have to wonder, will Karts be able to make that kind of strategy work and close back in and put the screws to Pipes? Right now, the fact that he is staying right behind the rear wing of that McLaren suggests that he might still be able to put some sort of fight up. Avocado continues to hang out there in 3rd position on track, not really doing anything crazy at the moment. Avocado's just not had anything to keep up with the ESV guys, but again, the main ESV team entry missed a race earlier in the season and also had a disconnect back at Silverstone that put them in the hole in the points. And because of that, coupled with the fact that Avocado's team has shown up and finished well in just about every single event, all Avocado really has to do is just finish with an overall result in the top 10 today, and there's a very high possibility that they will lock up the championship. Around the bend, and they fire off now for the last 3 corners. Arguably the most difficult corners on this track are the last 3 corners. Lap here is about 1 minute and 40 seconds, give or take a little bit. Does not look like Karts has anything right now to really fight with Pipes. The biggest thing is just that Pipes is not able to just run off into the distance and open up a giant gap over the Dodge. He's still close enough that he's gained the draft off of that McLaren ahead. So the Dodge is not really falling off. Avocado kind of stuck in no man's land. No one behind him, no one in front of him. And then you have this fight. Micro and Haya Cranky, nose to tail, fighting for 4th position here. You don't want to go side by side through this corner if you can help it. It's not the worst thing ever, but if you're on the outside, you're likely going to end up getting run off into the dirt, or heaven forbid, all of those piles of dirt on the extreme outside, which is used to slow the cars down in case of an accident. And that would absolutely derail your run if you end up there. Oh, inside's open. The Ferrari left the inside open in the McLaren. How deep does Cranky go? Cranky keeps the nose there. The Ferrari has to leave the door open. Big twitch on the power application by the McLaren, but he's still on the inside, and now the Ferrari finally moves back ahead. to the high-speed left-hander. This is honestly one of only 2 corners where downforce really has a big impact. All the other corners are slow to medium speed. Oh, the Ferrari's wide. Boy, is the Ferrari wide, and Hiya Cranky's gonna sneak on by. Cranky makes his way by. 30% wear right now on the tires for Micro. For Hiya Cranky, who runs in 4th, he is at 30% wear as well. For Avocado, who is running by himself in 3rd, he is at 29%. For ESV Karts in the Dodge, his tires are at 30%. And then for Pipes, who is leading at the moment, he is at 31%. So everyone seems to be wearing their tires pretty comparably to each other, except for Hiya Cranky. Cranky seems to have a very slight advantage when it comes to tire life right now. Both of our top 2 ESV drivers drop tires into the dirt there as they come onto the back straightaway. And now through this, turn 4 is honestly the only other corner where downforce really has a big impact. Everything else, you're just going so slow through that downforce doesn't really mean a whole lot. Big twitch and slide. But no real active movements there as our top 5 have pulled away from the rest of the field. You look back here at the rest of the grid, though. 6 cars all within about 3.5 seconds of each other right now. A wide variety of cars back here as well. You've got a Dodge, a Mustang, a BMW, and then a Chevy, and then you get to this pair of McLarens here who are trying to work their way by NWR Hyphen. Hyphen got a bonus point, well, this car got a bonus point last stint for completing the stint with no with no distance penalty. So while they are way down the points order, any point is something worth talking about, at least when it comes down to it. Oh, that's the top 2 in this little menage a trois that slide off into the dirt there. Keeps EMC Bunter right in the middle of it. Cosmic and Otavio at it, and that's letting DeLeve scoot away just a little bit in the Dodge. Slide from the Mustang on the outside, but he has the inside in turn 2. That compromises the BMW's line the following corner. But now the BMW just goes a little bit deeper, has a little bit more confidence in the car, and he will complete the overtake on the Mustang as they come out of turn number 3. So once more now, I want to look at this fight for 4th and 5th position. Hiya Cranky and NDL Micro. Micro has been another one of those drivers who, while he's not been awful, he's just had trouble really maximizing what the Ferrari can do, and that's not a driver problem. This is not to call him out. I've only really seen 1 or 2 drivers who are any good with the Ferraris. But if Micro can hold on and bring home a top 5 result, it would be fantastic for this team. But Hiya Cranky really trying to upend things right now. We're also likely going to start seeing drivers deal with some extreme tire fall off. Not this lap, but at the end of the next lap here. Power down. Through that high-speed bend, the second to last corner, McLaren drops tires into the dirt, but while it slows him a bit, he had enough of a gap on track over the Ferrari that it's not really going to compromise him. Down the straight once again. Looks to the inside, he's going to go for the dive, and the Ferrari gets it, but the McLaren's going to try the crossover. Big slide by the Ferrari. They're side by side in turn 2. The Ferrari has the advantage in turn 2 as well and uses that to put himself ahead of Hiya Cranky. Micro goes back to 4th for the moment. Meanwhile, we look back at this glut of cars here, the very rear of the grid. 2 McLarens and a Chevy. Just about nose and tails to get down to turn 4. Big wide run through here. Now the Chevy goes to the inside. You don't want to go side by side through these corners if you can help it. But he's committed to it. They're still side by side. How deep does the Chevy go into the following corner? Not deep enough. And the McLaren will hold station for now. He leaves the outside line open to the Chevy, then moves over, tries to shut the door. The Chevy's already there, but he has to back out because the extreme weight of the car. Inside's open. The Chevy bullies his way through, side by side as they come off the top of the mountain. Drag race downhill. Chevy should have some superior straight line speed. He has the inside line, which is ideal. The McLaren uses all the track now. He has the inside in the third to last corner. Will slide in front of the Chevy. The Chevy tries to cross over, but is not able to get the power down smoothly enough. So Hyphen stays in 10th for the moment. Meanwhile, at the front is Pipes versus Karts. McLaren with the Dodge right behind him. McLaren is already at 56% tire wear at the rears. Karts is already at 55%. So Karts is still doing a little bit better, managing his tires. But Pipes is not experiencing a massive lap time fall off like we saw his teammates in the McLaren have in the nighttime periods of the race. So it may just come down to pit lane entry and exit and who has a slightly shorter fill. Oh, that was the line open. He left the line open. Now the Dodge is going to try and come up the outside as they rush uphill. How deep does the Dodge go into brake? He's going to try. Pinch the ESV McLaren to the inside. Drag race on the way out. Here on the straightaway, the McLaren should have the advantage, but the Dodge is still right there. Still side by side, and now the McLaren finishes the move, but the Dodge can go really deep under braking here, but he gets the door shut on him at the last possible moment by the McLaren. So the Dodge definitely is still coming to life at the very end of these tire runs, but the difference is not nearly as dramatic as what it was in the night. And that is Avocado, who is pitting now. So Avocado didn't even last a full 15 minutes before going ahead and jumping into the pit lane. So Pipes and Karts are going to stay out a little longer. Micro also went ahead and pitted, but Hiya Cranky stays out a little longer. There's the move. Karts goes for a big dive on the inside, gets the move done, and now we see Pipes tries the crossover, but Karts has it. Okay, so there's definitely still some tire crossover that works out in Karts' favor, it seems. The Dodge just has way too much advantage, while the McLaren has superior pace. It all comes down to tire life in these events. So Hiya Cranky now cycles back up into the third position on track, running ahead of DeLeve, who is now up in fourth. But again, Hiya Cranky, we anticipate, is going to be pitting at the end of this lap. He's already at 64% tire life. It's going to be hard for him to make it into the pits. I don't know if he's going to be able to maintain his position over NDL Micro once he makes his stop. Top two are still right on top of each other, but it is so visibly obvious that the Dodge is so much better at the very end of the tire life, and that's all that matters really when everyone's lap times are relatively comparable. It just comes down to tire life, because you will not have nearly as much of a tire fall off later on. Cosmic has had some sort of issue, and he's now dropped back behind both Octavio and DeLeve. So while the BMW M8 really came onto at the very end of the fuel and tire life, he's really struggling to maintain and really keep hold of his positions on track. So Karts, Pipes, and Hiya Cranky all jump into the pits this time. How many of this trio will pit? Well, the Dodge is pitting, but the other two are going to stay out a little bit longer, likely because these two are trying to run something on medium tires. Let's verify that real quickly here. Cosmic is only at 44%, and Otavio, I believe, is also only about 45%, 47%. So these drivers are definitely on the medium tires. And then you have Ardno and another McLaren way back here. He is only at 43%, 44%. So again, these all are drivers who are on the medium tires. And Avocado has ended up ahead of Pipes, and he's ended up ahead of Karts. Oh, that is dramatic. Avocado suddenly is leading. This is the first time that we have seen this entry lead in today's event. He's been in a top 3 contender all event long. Well, most of the event long, but he has not actually led, and now he is ahead of both ESV Pipes and ESV Karts. He pitted a little bit before the 15-minute mark. Pipes and Karts both stayed out an extra lap. held each other up a bit, and now they're going to have to try and run down and catch and overtake Avocado. And the fight between Micro and Higher Cranky, well, here's your answer. Micro is way ahead of Higher Cranky. So the undercut seem to be very strong here right now, but those drivers who pitted earlier are going to be dealing with some significant lap time fall off as it goes forward here. Meanwhile, at the front is Otavio and Cosmic, the Ford Mustang, leading. Grant is off strategy, but he has had to legitimately fight with other drivers on a similar strategy to be in this position as he is trying to keep the BMW M8 behind. Two cars that have been heavily hurt when it comes to overall BOP and just performance. Honestly, I'm not even sure if it's a BOP issue. It may just be that these cars are so heavy and the way they deliver their power is so inconsistent, it makes it hard for them to be competitive. It's similar with the Chevy, which is incredibly fast over single lap pace, but as its tires fall off, it just has no recourse. Tavia and Cosmic still going at it. You can see Arno a little bit farther back there in the McLaren, slowly closing in. And then behind them are the actual leaders, which is shockingly of all, Indiel Avocado, who is leading, hoping that maybe he can steal a stint win here. Likely can only get third at best for overall results, but a stint win would be fantastic and would really show that, hey, I'm not just here idly twiddling my thumbs, sitting on the big points gap I've earned. I'm here, I'm actually fighting for these positions. Still, Cosmic puts Altavio under pressure. Also, Higher Cranky is starting to run down on Micro as well. Coming up to the top of the hill. The inside line open just enough for the BMW, the big boy M8, to put his nose there. But on the run out, the Mustang has superior traction on the outside line. He's able to use a little bit more track, be a little bit more cautious putting the power down, and he holds station for the moment. So Otavio, off strategy, leading laps here. Neither of them pit this time either. And we're likely going to see Ardno holding up Avocado by the end of this lap, so Avocado might get caught by the ESV duo, just struggling with traffic here. Mind you, Pipes is ahead of Karts right now by a pretty significant margin, while Karts will likely close the gap down due to tire superiority. It's going to get really interesting here. To the inside of the Mustang is Cosmic. They're going to be side-by-side in turn 2, but no, the BMW M8 backs out. Both of these very, very wide, heavy cars going side-by-side again through turn 3. The Mustang has slightly better lines, but that BMW is not giving up here. Down into turn 4 now. These drivers will have to pit at the end of this lap just because of their tire fall off. Outside comes the BMW M8. Avocado is going to shoot by Ardno with no issue whatsoever. Fantastic job by Avocado to make that happen. And now into the valley, and they rocket uphill, racing to the top of the mountain. What can Avocado do? Can Avocado dispose of these two before they pit? He does not want to have to be held up behind them through the second to last and third to last corners. There's 3 wide! Look at it! It's 3 wide here! And there's 3 wide! The BMW backs out, says, I want no part of that! The McLaren is still there, putting pressure on the Mustang! The Mustang blocks! Otavio holds it over Avocado! Avocado goes deep under braking! And he'll make it stick! And they're still fighting! And Pipes is gonna make it 3 wide now! Pipes trying to make it 3 wide! Is there room? He's gonna force the room! He goes into the dirt! He's by! There's all sorts of chaos! And who was that? Someone had an accident! Was that Ardno? Yes! Ardno has had an accident! Ardno tried, and he's hit the Ferrari! Ardno tried to pit. There was way too many cars trying to come into the pit lane, trying to make room. Too many cars on top of each other. And Ardno, who wanted to pit this time by, gets wrecked, hits the Ferrari of India Micro, spins out of control. He's 6th on track right now, but once he's actually done his pit stop, he'll likely fall to last on circuit. Karts, I think, also was really held up by that as well. It's really opened the gap between himself and ESV Pipes right now. And now ESV Pipes is going to try and run down the gap on Avocado. Pipes has fresher tires slightly over Avocado at this stage of the event. So our top three all pretty much share a straightaway with each other. And after being involved in that accident, Micro has now been pushed back into the grasp of Haya Cranky. So Haya Cranky now going to try and make another run for 4th place. Reminder, Micro pitted a lap earlier, so now Cranky has a significant tire advantage going forward here. Ardno has already fallen to 10th because his tires are so cooked. He's likely in the mid-70s when it comes to tire wear right now. Well, he's at the 60s. Oh, he's out of fuel. That's a bigger problem. He's out of fuel. All right, we're going to go ahead and ride on board for a lap with ZR Haya Cranky here. See what flying lap is like when you're trying to overtake that NDL Team Noodles Ferrari here at Kylami. We'll be back momentarily. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. Almost 30 minutes through the event right now, and we are watching a fantastic duel between NDL Micro and ZR Haya Cranky for 4th position, but this is not the only battle to keep an eye on. As Micro runs wide in turn 1 and gives Haya Cranky a chance to close in, there is also the fight for the lead. Pipes is slowly closing in on Avocado. Pipes has fresher tires than Avocado, who pitted a lap earlier. Now Avocado absolutely put the pedal to the metal and rushed his way through traffic. Pipes was held up, not massively, but he was held up a bit, and then Karts, who is way back there in 3rd, would likely be closer to this duo. But he was involved in that giant mess that ended up seeing Ardno get caught up in it, and that's the other thing to consider. Ardno lost so much time. He is actually at risk of going a lap down depending on how the rest of this race goes. He'll have to really dig deep and find some fantastic lap times if he does not want to go a lap down by the end of this event. Reminder, ESV Karts and the Dodge, they have opened up a massive overall distance. On 2nd place is Pipes' team, and 3rd place is Avocado's team. So right now, this is more fighting mano-a-mano for Stint win at the moment, as they bounce over the curbs. 45-46% right now on the tires for Pipes. For Avocado, who leads as they come across the line, it's at 52%. So surely Avocado will be considering pitting at the end of this lap. He might stay another lap, but if he stays out another lap, he's going to be putting himself under threat from ESV Pipes. He pitted a lap early, though, so he's at a tire disadvantage. At some point, he's going to have to pay the piper and burn up another set of tires at some point in the race, a little bit more than what he wants. You can see that up there is NDL Ardno. Here comes Pipes. He's going to try and go around the outside in turn 4. If he can stay alongside, this will give him a good shot in 5. A little bit of contact. He's still there. Does he go deep under the braking? Oh, he does. That should be easy. Avocado will try and cross over. Pipes drop tires in the dirt. Avocado's not done. Avocado's fighting back side by side between the two McLarens. Switchback section now. Pipes is going to have the outside line on the run uphill to the top of the mountain. He backs out, falls in line behind. But Avocado, with those worn tires, can't hold the inside line. Here comes Pipes to the inside now. Drag race again, this time downhill. Does Avocado back out so he can keep it on the track? Oh, yes, he does back out. He's not confident. He looks to the inside, but does not have the tire life to really fight back. So Pipes goes back to the top here. Does Avocado pit this time? No, he stays out for another lap. So at the end of this lap, it will be about a minute and 30 seconds, an hour, 30 minutes, about 10 seconds or so. So Avocado will be back on schedule with these drivers. The thing is, though, that Avocado, all that track position he gained from painting lap earlier is now going to be evaporated because look at how worn out these tires are. 61%. He's going to be at about the 69%, almost 70% range by the end of this lap. There is no way he's going to be able to keep ESV karts behind him. It was a good, strong strategy choice by Avocado, but you can't beat physics, and the physics demand that you pit roughly every 15 minutes, and Avocado has eclipsed that 15-minute mark. You can already see Pipes is running off, and Karts is running them down. And to be fair, Pipes will likely pit at the end of this lap as well, because he's going to be at about the 60% mark at the end of this upcoming lap, the end of this lap. So we likely will see all three of these drivers pit at the exact same time. The thing this really probably helps out more than anything else is Karts, because Karts is going to be in a position to ensure that Avocado will not be able to gain any on Pipes. So Pipes will maintain his second spot overall in the event. Karts will maintain his overall win, and the gap will still close by 6, realistically 7, but at least 6 points here. Side by side between the Dodge and the McLaren. McLaren holds the inside. Dodge on the outside. He'll back out and try to cross over, and will try and outrun the McLaren. Doesn't even have to worry about outrunning the McLaren. You can visibly see how much he is struggling with those worn tires. Oh, Pipes is staying out. Karts pits and Avocado pits, but Pipes stays out a little longer. What is this? Pipes is going extra long on these tires. He's going to be losing a huge amount of time on this following lap. So all of a sudden now, Karts is the one who you have to wonder what is going on. Micro went ahead and pitted this lap as well. Bahia Cranky stayed out for another lap also. Are these drivers staying out extra laps, hoping that maybe they can do something, trim the event down to a 6 stop? It does not look like it's been possible based off of what the Dodge was able to do in the nighttime stints, and the Dodge has been the best at tires conservation. Going extra lap or 2 is so harmful. It just is not going to work out here for you. Again, I have to wonder why Pipes thought this was a good idea. Karts ended up ahead of Cosmic, and Cosmic is right between Karts and Avocado, so Cosmic has unintentionally ended up being the pick that's kind of going to screw over Avocado here more than likely, and keep Avocado from really punching any higher up the grid. Real quickly, let's look at distance penalties, and oh boy, everybody except EMC Bunter has already earned some level or another of distance penalties. The one with the one driver with the highest amount, though, is NDL Avocado. So yeah, for Avocado, any shot of finishing higher than third today is basically derailed, barring a disconnect from either Pipes or Karts. Downhill. Cosmic on older, harder tires. And Avocado catches him in the most frustrating corners on the circuit here. Not held up too much, not that time. ESV Pipes is still in the pit lane. Hiya Cranky is still in the pit lane. I'm curious to see if Karts is going to end up beating Pipes. Pipes is just now come out of pit lane. He's accelerating at the top speed. Now remember, the Dodge does not have as high of a top speed, but look at this. Karts is already by. Karts goes to the lead over Pipes. And Pipes ends up side by side with that BMW M8. So Pipes has ended up just barely ahead of Avocado. And he clears the BMW, and now Avocado clears the BMW as well, finally. So our top three, honestly, our top four all share a straightaway with each other now once more. Ardno is doing a good job trying to recover from the incident he had and basically having to run an entire lap on what was basically 0.5% of fuel. Big problem for Avocado is that now Pipes right ahead of him still has fresher tires, and Pipes is going to be able to move forward and catch Karts. The interesting thing, though, is that Karts has done better with tire management, but he has older tires than Avocado, so I'm really curious to see if Pipes actually gets a chance to close down on Karts and actually put any real pressure on him on the run forward. Karts also is really stacking up the distance penalties while Pipes is doing a good job keeping it minimal. Now again, the overall distance is very, very large in Karts' favor, so that he can afford to burn through some distance penalties, but you don't want to go too far if you can help it, especially if Pipes absolutely comes to life as this continues to go on here. Also, credit to Cosmic, who is legitimately holding on to the back of our top three here. Top three are all definitely closing down. The Dodge just does not have the lap times that the McLarens do. So our gap between our top three continue to close down slowly yet surely here. Avocado putting some pressure on Pipes, but again, you can put all the pressure you want on him. It's not going to matter once your tires really fall off, and Avocado is at a tire disadvantage against Pipes here. Though to be fair to Avocado, paying that lap early has helped. That and navigating traffic has kept Avocado much closer to the ESV duo than where this car was in the prior two stints. Cosmic finally pits. We're going to go ahead and ride on board for a lap with Avocado as him and Pipes run down on Karts here at Kylami. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami as you see our top three screaming down into turn number one. As ESV on ESV action at the very head of this field right now. Pipes running down Karts. Karts has older tires but is better at tire management. Pipes is in the faster car with fresher tires, but that advantage is dribbling away as it goes on here. This could easily go in either direction. If these two spend too much time fighting with each other, it could keep Avocado closer to the front than I think either of these duo want. EMC Bunter still on track to maybe bring home a stint with no distance penalties. Nobody finished stint 1 with 0 distance penalties, but 2 different drivers did it in stint 2. One driver on track to maybe do it here in stint 3. We are almost a third of the way through this final stint here at Kylami. Around the top of the mountain, accelerating downhill once again. Avocado is absolutely falling off the back of Pipes. You can visibly see now that, yeah, between the two, Avocado just doesn't really have anything for that duo. And that whole distance of paying a lap earlier and then having to burn up an extra lap on tires later, it's all kind of come around to really bite Avocado in the tailpipe right now, as he is now hemorrhaging time to this duo. That is Ardno, who just came out of pit, who's just come out of pit lane. Ardno was the main driver who got screwed over in that big accident while leaders were trying to while the leaders on two different strategies all caught each other. Ardno was going to pit, got hit, turned, hit the wall, spun, missed pit lane entrance, and had to limp around the track on only about 0.5% of fuel. So Ardno is just racing to try and stay on the lead lap here at Kylami. That's the McLaren you see farther up the road, that black one. Nose to tail, bumper to bumper between the Dodge and the McLaren. Off the top, downhill once more. Pipes does have one massive advantage. He has almost 1/10 of a mile less of distance penalty than Karts right now. So he may not have to manually go out there and force his way by the Dodge. He may just be able to let the race and the stint at least come to him off the back of distance penalties. But if you want to go and try to fight for the overall victory, Pipes needs to get by Karts and start opening up a big gap on him. Just doesn't seem like he has what it takes to do that right now. But these two are definitely holding each other up, and Avocado, despite having very worn tires of his own, is now starting to close in on this duo just a little bit here. For a brief moment there, you saw Pipes peek the nose in, looking to try and make some kind of move, but not willing to commit to it, not yet. And now out of turn 3 and down the back straightaway. Around turn 4, one of only 2 corners here that are really super downforce focused. Inside line, Pipes trying to get onto an inside line, but the thing is that Pipes is dealing with his own significant tire fall off, so he can't just happily put his car wherever he wants. Out of the bottom and rushing up to the top of the mountain. Does the Dodge defend the inside? No, but to be fair, Pipes does not lunge for a move either. Avocado is definitely closing back in. Around this other downforce corner. Now the 3 last corners, the 3 most difficult corners on the circuit. The Dodge is wide, but has plenty of room to put the power down. He's smooth on the power, using that to maintain his position over the McLaren. And the Dodge pits. Karts comes into the pit lane. Pipes is going to stay out. What of Avocado? Avocado stays out as well. So, the tire strategy for our top three continues to become curiouser and curiouser. Our fourth place driver right now is ZR Haya Cranky. He had been fighting with Micro, but Micro was involved in that incident earlier, and it just seems to have been bleeding off time ever since. Although, to be fair, Micro has been doing a good job keeping his distance penalties less than Haya Cranky. So if these two get a little bit closer, Micro might still be able to nip Haya Cranky for fourth based off of that later. Karts, after coming out of the pit lane, is going to be in completely clean air. It does not look like he'll have to deal with any traffic. Meanwhile, we look at our top two. Pipes. His tires are at 48%. He still has plenty of life in them. Avocado, who is second, he is at 56%. Does Avocado consider pitting at the end of this lap? I would think not. I would think that Avocado would want to stay out for another lap afterwards, even though he would lose a lot of time due to the tire fall off. It would keep him on track for the nice even 7-stop strategy, which has been the meta thus far today. Different fight going on. This is between EMC Bunter in the McLaren and Deleve in the Dodge. Bunter still trying to hold on to a run where he, thus far at least, has no distance penalties. Otavio has fallen way off of this duo right now, though. Neither Pipes or Avocado pitted this time. That's going to make things really interesting for Karts then, because Karts is now going to have a 2-lap disadvantage in tires. Now, he'll definitely leapfrog those two once they finally pit, but for now at least, Karts is going... excuse me. Karts is not looking great. When it comes to his tire life, I have to wonder what the devil his strategy was here. He is running in clean air, and that will help him a bit, but he may have to deal with some problems with tire fall off later. The only thing that might help him is that the Dodge has been so conservative on tires that he just might naturally be able to kind of bring the Dodge back into the stop every 15 minutes meta that has kind of developed here, because the Dodge is just so smooth on its tires. That's my guess. He figures it's more important to run clean laps in clean air than to be closer to the ideal strategy, but be fine with people. Avocado has completely lost touch with Pipes now, though. His tires are in the 60% where he's going to be at about 68, 69% once he comes down into the pit lane. This is not looking good for him in the slightest. Pipes is, Pipes is almost at 60% tire wear as well right now, though. Ooh, big twitch, big slide, but he holds it. Here comes Avocado. His tires, when he comes in, are 67%. But he makes it. So where is Avocado going to be in relation to ESV Karts? I would imagine that Karts would have a significant advantage over Avocado on track position, but is going to see it quickly dribble away, though, due to the massive differences in tire life. Micro is going to pit as well, so that Ferrari stops also. This also briefly puts Haya Cranky as high as second on track. And yeah, there's the gap you can see already between Karts and Avocado. It's going to be pretty big, and it keeps getting bigger. In fact, Avocado may have to deal with Cosmic again. Yes. Well, no, maybe not. If Avocado can get his tires heated up through this section, 1, 2, 3, 4, turns 1, 2, 3, 4, Avocado should be in a position where he can navigate turns 4 and on fine. And by having fresher tires and clean air in front of him, Avocado should be able to scoot away from that BMW M8. We'll see here. This is the lap that we anticipate to see ESV Pipes, your current leader, go ahead and jump into the pit lane. He is at 65% tire wear right now. Also, we imagine Haya Cranky will pit this time as well. Well, Cosmic has not let Avocado by. Cosmic still sees Avocado right in front of him, so that could end up being a bit of an odd knock-on effect to keep an eye on. Pipes into the pits now. So we imagine Hyatt Cranky will be joining him in the pits, and we'll see Karts, Avocado, and Cosmic trying to see where they come out between first and fourth positions as we ride on board with NDL Cosmic in the BMW M8. Already Pipes is coming out of pit lane. But it's going to take him some time to get up to top speed. And it looks like Karts is going to clip Pipes for the lead here. Yeah, you can see way up there in the braking zone, that Dodge Viper is back in front of the McLaren. So Dodge goes back to the lead here at Kylami. Round turn 4. Thing is, though, that Pipes has already got his tires nice and warmed up, so he can start immediately putting pressure on Karts. It doesn't take too long to get your tires up to temperature here. By the time you complete turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump on the brakes for... Well, by the time you complete turns 1, 2, and 3, and then jumps on the brakes for turn 4, your tires should be up to operating temperatures, especially here in the daytime when the track temp is already nice and warm as well. Avocado finally shakes Cosmic. Okay, so how long is Pipes going to be held up behind Karts? Karts is at a massive tire disadvantage, and if Pipes spends a ridiculous amount of time stuck behind that Dodge, they will back each other up into Avocado's range again. The ESV drivers, while they were able to fight with each other in the first two stints, while they were able to fight each other in the first two stints, they were doing a good job of not really holding each other up and just pulling away from Avocado. That does not seem to be the case here in Stint 3. Every time these two get to each other, they're just slowing each other down, and it really is helping out Avocado, who doesn't have the outright pace of this duo, but is just fast enough to stay on their tail. Around the bend. Rushing uphill again. And onto the back straightaway. That Dodge of Karts drops the tire off into the dirt. Boy, Avocado, big slide off farther back there. Cosmic has just lost a spot to Micro. Something's gone terribly wrong for Cosmic. He has suddenly hemorrhaged the tire. Oh, he came out of pits. That's what it was. Okay. That explains it. Well, the fight for the lead is on once more. How long will Pipes be trapped behind Karts? That is the big question. We're anticipating these drivers will all pit in about another, 6, 7 laps? Maybe 6 laps, I think. Might be less than that for Karts, but I'm thinking about 6 more laps. We're going to take one of Twitch's mandated ad breaks, and we'll be back momentarily here at Kylami as we continue to watch this fight for lead between the ESV duo. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a fantastic duel that we are watching right now between the duo of ESV karts and ESV pipes. Dodge versus McLaren. The McLaren is the faster car, but the Dodge is so much better when it comes to salvaging tire life. And he's jumped onto an alternate strategy, hoping that that massive advantage in tire life will get him the win later on. It has put karts back ahead of pipes for now, but for how long, that is the question. We're expecting to see pipes pitting in about another 4 laps or so. Avocado is back there in third, but he's not really running down this duo like we thought he would be able to. You see him in the background there. Again, Avocado ran in Stint 2, which was all in the night, and he was able to go relatively far on tires then. But now in the daytime, it seems like he's struggling. He's traded in tire life and management for more speed, but not enough speed. We're also expecting karts to pit probably in another 2 laps, if not 3. Karts now up to 0.149 miles worth of distance penalties. And that McLaren, that black McLaren you saw ahead of them, that is Ardno. He was fighting to stay on the lead lap after the accident he had earlier. This is the move. To the inside. He denies the Dodge the run to get alongside in turn 2, but the Dodge has the torque. He's able to keep it there, but still has to fall back behind the McLaren by the time they get to turn 3. McLaren slides really wide coming out of turn 3, but he does have the spot on the Dodge. So does karts go deep under braking here in turn 4 to try and get alongside? No sign of that being the case yet. What about in turn 5? No, if anything, that Dodge seemed to get really sideways there and squirrely. So Pipes takes the spot from karts, and already you can see the gap starting to visibly open between the two of them. We look at Karts' tire life right now, 58%, and we think that he's going to want to do another lap after this. So he'll pit with about an hour and 2 minutes left. Anticipate, that's what we anticipate the Dodge is going to do. The undercut is fantastic for getting you track position, but there is nothing you can do. Once your tires hit about that 51, 52% mark, you just start hemorrhaging lap time, and it's so hard for you to do anything. And legitimate overtakes between drivers who are on the same tire life has been just about impossible today. We have seen almost no overtakes on merit between two drivers who are on the same tire strategy. Most of the fights and overtakes we have seen have come off the back of strategy differences. Real quickly, I do want to give a shout out to ZR Haya Cranky. He had been fighting with NDL Micro for 4th. Now, Micro actually opened up the gap on Cranky a bit, but then was involved in that accident that Ardno got damaged in, and in the process, to let Haya Cranky catch Micro. He beat Micro, and now Cranky has been gradually opening the gap between himself and NDL Micro, so ZR team might be looking for a 4th place result here in the final stint. Karts is just about to fall back into Avocado's grasp. Mind you, it's not like Avocado has fantastic tire life either, but he is falling back into Avocado's grasp. Big thing though is that Karts still has less distance penalty than Avocado at this stage of the event. And already, Karts has a gigantic advantage in distance over Pipe's team and Avocado's team, so it's likely not going to change. Again, like I've said probably 3 or 4 times already, this is not really a fight for overall win. The pace is pretty much dictated where these two are going to be in the overall final results of this race. This is mainly a fight to just mano y mano show that, hey, I wasn't just sandbagging. I was out here legitimately trying to make something happen. So yeah, Karts pits about 2 minutes and 11 seconds earlier than he would want to. So at some point, Karts is going to have to figure out a way to go an extra lap on tires, I imagine. Now again, that dodge, if any car can do it, it will be the dodge. I think it's not really a bad strategy for the dodge. It's just not one that's going to go fantastic for him in these middle stages when he has to try and claw the life of the tires back. ESV Pipe sees Ardno just ahead. He is closing down on Ardno, who was involved in that big incident earlier. It's kind of a shame because Ardno's pace is legitimately good enough that if he was not involved in that accident and basically ran out of fuel limping around the circuit, I think Ardno would be fighting for a 7th place, maybe even a 6th place position, honestly. He does not deserve to be this far back based off of his pace, but stuff happens in racing. That is not what people want to see. Karts ends up just ahead of a fight between Micro and Cosmic right now. Reminder, Cosmic's on an alternate strategy of his own. He was as high as 4th, was actually briefly fighting with Avocado, but he's on a strategy of his own. The BMW M8 seems to be really strong very early in the stint on these alternate strategies, but as they play out, he just hemorrhages time and positions and falls farther and farther down the grid. Okay, so Micro is going to let Cosmic pass. That's another thing we have seen a lot of. Drivers just letting other cars by, even though they are actively fighting for position. The belief seems to be it's more advantageous to let other cars that are faster go by, just so you're not being held up by someone else or being pressured by someone else. All right, and we are now halfway through the event here at Kylami. And yes, Ardno has now officially gone a lap down. We're probably going to see Avocado pit at the end of this lap. Not sure about Pipes. If Pipes cared, I think Pipes would go ahead and pit this lap. You could most definitely pit this lap and be fine and only make it 3 more stops to the end. But we'll see. Also, if Pipes pitted this lap, while he would probably fall briefly behind Karts, he would have a massive advantage over Avocado, which that is the main thing. The ESV team trying to keep Avocado as far down as 3rd. Granted, they'd like him to be farther down, but they are betting on a December Enduro showing up to keep them in championship contention. But if there is none, if there's only one more Enduro in this SEC championship, then the way that Avocado is driving and with how many drivers have dropped out over the course of the event, Avocado would need a disconnect, basically, to still keep the championship mathematically open going into the final race next month. But again, we do not know yet if there's going to be a December Enduro or not. Let's look at Karts. Where is Karts going to be in relation to NDL Avocado? Karts is in clean air. I got bad news for Avocado. I do not think he is going to be in clean air. I think he may have to deal with that BMW once again. Cosmic. Yep, there he is. Cosmic once again giving trouble to NDL Avocado. Now, mind you, Cosmic is on an alternate strategy. So what about Pipes? When Pipes pits this time, where is he going to end up in relation to ESV Karts? Well, he is so slow, it's going to let Ardno get back on the lead lap on merit here. What would have. So briefly, at least, Ardno goes back onto the lead lap. So for karts, where does he end up? We'll see Haya Cranky pit this lap as well, I imagine. And Cosmic pits this time also. So Avocado didn't really get held up, didn't really get challenged by that BMW for too long, but already Pipes out of pit lane. That gap between this two is monstrous. Look at how big the gap between Pipes and Karts has suddenly grown. Well, that's interesting. And now one more thing, we have to seriously talk about the possibility. If Pipes wins this and Karts does not, then that means that Karts' team will only close 3 points in the championship instead of the 7 that they are set up to close. So, yeah, that would further neuter any chance that they had of winning the title, even if there is a December Enduro later. So, again, I don't know, but Pipes has a massive tire advantage over Karts and a pace advantage and now track position advantage as well. While Karts will likely chop off a little bit of Pipes' advantage here and there, I think Pipes is in a fantastic spot from here to the end of this race. Somehow, we are halfway through, and EMC Bunter still is nice and clean and does not have any distance penalties yet. So remember, this team is going to be fighting for what is really ninth place honors at best, because they had a disconnect in Stint 2. But they would likely try to make up for that a little bit. If they can pull off this run here, this stint with no distance penalties, they would get at least one more point out of it to try and salvage some of the loss in points. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with a lap of this McLaren of EMC Bunter and see what a flying lap looks like when you're in a car that is just trying to stay on track and not violate anything. All right, and that was a full lap on board. with EMC Bunter as you see him firing off down into turn 1 here. And Bunter is trying to do something special. Now, on some circuits like Bathurst, or Daytona to a lesser extent, doing the entire race with no distance penalties is not that difficult just because there's not a lot of places to get distance penalties at. But here at Kylami, the walls are not super close here. There are a lot of places you can get distance penalties and violate the car or violate the track limits. So for Bunter to be able to keep this together like he is honestly very, very impressive. Meanwhile, talking once more about the overall scenarios for the win, Pipes leads and is slowly opening the gap between himself and ESV Karts. Karts is seeing himself slowly being closed down on by Avocado, but Karts still has a significant distance penalty advantage over Avocado, so it seems for certain that it doesn't matter what happens, Avocado can only be third at best, but there may be a legitimate question about Pipes overtaking Karts for the overall event win just because of how monstrously fast that McLaren seems to be right now in the daytime. He's got a tire advantage, he's got track position advantage, he's got a pace advantage. The only thing that Karts really has coming to him is that he is not going to be really suffering from lap time fall off nearly as much as this continues to go on here. Most of the other, basically all the other battles on track have already been decided at this point. It's really just a matter of watching where Karts and Avocado end up in relation to each other. Or Karts and Pipes, I mean, end up in relation to each other. So Stint 1, it was ESV versus ESV, dealing with the track starting bright and sunny and then ending under night conditions. Stint 2, the big thing was about disconnects. 4 disconnects out of 13 stars, so just about a third of the field did not finish. And now in this final stint, it is the possibility that this Dodge team might lose the event overall. Reminder, Otavio and Hyphen are on a different strategy. I believe they are doing the all-medium strategies right now. Everyone else looks like they're doing all softs here. The Leave, who is in the number 64 Dodge, is likely going to be the next driver to go a lap down. Will likely go a lap down with about, 20 minutes or so to go. After that will be Hyphen. Hyphen might go a lap down with about 10 minutes or so to go. Maybe a little more than that. I think EMC Bunter might be okay, though. I think Bunter might be just good enough that he'll be able to stay on the lead lap here. Outside of Ardno, who had that accident, which is likely where a lot of that penalty has come from, no one has hit the 0.2 mile mark in distance penalties yet. Avocado was close, but he's not there yet, so penalties not nearly as extreme, at least at this stage of the event here. Avocado is starting to run back down on ESV Karts again. Now, big problem for Avocado is that he's going to have to deal with traffic in the form of Ardno, and Ardno is not just ultra slow. Ardno is legitimately a top 6 or 7 car on pace, but he is trying to just do whatever he can to stay on the lead lap. Now, the more this here right now, Ardno fighting with karts, this is good for Avocado because it gives him a chance to try and run down that dodge. But he's going to have to deal with that dodge as well, although Avocado has seemed to have a little bit better luck navigating traffic than the ESV boys. And here you go, Avocado pulls up right behind the rear wing of Karts. Now, is Karts pitting this lap, or is he going to stay out for another lap? No, Karts is pitting this time by. So Avocado only catches Karts at the last possible moment. It doesn't really make any solid headway against him, it seems. Now, Avocado can probably pit at the end of this lap, not have to worry about his tires getting too worn, I would imagine. Yeah, if he pits at the end of this lap, he should be fine. And could probably manage his tires the rest of the way here. Oh, Hiya Cranky actually ended up ahead of Karts. That's unique. Granted, it's by a massive amount, so it's not like it's going to be causing him traffic problems. This is Indiel Cosmic in the BMW M8, but he's going to be too far back to really give that Dodge any problems, I imagine. Not to mention, Cosmic is likely going to be paying about 2 to 3 laps on his own. So he's really not in a position to put Karts under any real pressure here. As they come up through turn 3. What's happened to Hyphen? How did Hyphen already end up back here? Oh, he just pitted, so he's on a radically alternate stop. Okay. So he's gone a lap down for now because of strategy, but considering the lack of pace that Chevy has, he'll likely get the lap back in a bit, but then once he goes a lap down again later, he'll likely stay a lap down after that. Does Avocado pit this time? No, he chooses to stay out again. For Pipes, I have to wonder, with how good he has been with managing his tires, do you consider cutting out a pit stop and going medium-medium on your last 2 stints here? You'd be slower, but you'd spend less time in pit lane. That might be, if Pipes wants to try and nip Karts for the overall win, that might be a legitimate option. We've not really seen anyone try that. One of the Ferraris in the last stint made only 5 stops, and that was not all mediums. It was it was all mediums except the final one, the very final time they threw on softs. The gaps were so big then that it didn't really change anything for him. Cosmic is still there behind Karts, and Avocado is likely going to be pitting this time by. So if Avocado ends up behind Karts, he's going to have to deal with that BMW all over again. And yeah, he's definitely pitting this time. Okay. So Cosmic is likely going to catch Indiel Avocado again in just a few short moments here. Pipe stays out again. I mean, legitimately, Pipes could, honestly, cut out a pit stop and go medium-medium. It's definitely a strategy that I would be considering. Just try and do something different. And hope that you could really leapfrog Kart something big then. Okay, so Cosmic pits this time, so Avocado will not have to deal with Cosmic this time. Okay. But, Karts coming down pit lane. You can see there the McLaren is accelerating on the pit lane exit, but Karts is already rocketing up to his top speed. As they come down the main straightaway and down to turn 1, that Dodge has the advantage on track. Now, Avocado now has tire life advantage, and he is closer, so he can immediately start putting pressure on the Dodge. But again, Avocado has about 4/100ths of a distance of a mile in distance penalties more. So he would not only have to pass karts on track, he would have to open up a big gap, and the pace difference is not enough, and the tire life difference is not enough, I think, for Avocado to do that. He needs karts to slide off a few more times here. So Hyatt Cranky also moves back up into second for the moment. But again, Hyatt Cranky has been mimicking Pipes' strategy of going really, really long on the tires. And honestly, Pipes is another Cranky is another driver who, if I was in their shoes, I would very strongly consider running medium and trying to go from 7 pit stops down to 6. Just so I'm spending less time in pit lane. Pipe's already out of pit lane. And these two haven't even rounded the final corner yet. But yeah, that gap is gigantic and it's only been getting bigger. Otavio only making his 5th stop thus far. You can see Bunter going ahead and jumping into the pit lane there. I've talked a lot about what Hyphen's actual pace should have been, what Ardno's actual pace should have been here. But we're going to go ahead and spin the lap on board with NWR Hyphen as we go through a Twitch mandated ad break. We will be back momentarily here, but while we're away, we'll go ahead and spin the full lap on board with NWR Hyphen in the Chevrolet, and you can judge if you think maybe the Chevrolet is a appealing car or just way too heavy for its own good. Assuming he's not pitting this time. Yeah, he's definitely not pitting this time. We'll be back momentarily here at Kylami. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. And we have gone down to 10 cars on track. And with that in mind, again, I am running under the assumption that there is not going to be a December Enduro added to the calendar. But now that we are down to just 10 cars running, NDL Avocado and his team, I believe, have mathematically locked up and secured the championship. Even if Avocado disconnected right now, as long as they made an attempt to start next month's event, and honestly, they may not even have to do that, but I believe as long as they attempt to start next month's event, they will automatically have the championship wrapped up. Avocado's also now eclipsed the 0.2 of a mile mark in distance penalties. This is the second most of everyone on track. Ardeno's the only one with more penalties right now. So the championship is over. Second place will automatically be locked up as well. And then Micro and the Ferrari here, their team, I think, has just about locked up the championship as well now, I believe. I think with the way this has turned out, I think every position, the top 3 or 4 in points will have been locked up. I won't be able to say for certain until next month, because it usually takes a few days for the points to be updated. Yeah, I think most of the championship flights have been wrapped up for our top performers, at least. The drivers farther down the order, there's still a lot more up to play and more up for grabs, but that will also come down to who actually attends next month's event. The VER guys showed up with Chevrolets back at Bathurst, and they also ran Catalunya as well, and they looked relatively competent. But them not running here means that they only will have run about 3 events total. So they're not really going to move up a whole lot in the points. There have been lots of other teams that have only ran 1 or 2 events as well that aren't really going to factor into it. So again, points aren't really going to come up to anything crazy here. Also, with only 10 drivers on track, every spot between each of these, minus the gap between first and second, is only a 2-point swing. Now again, also remember, it is not just where you finish here, it is a combination of total distance across all 3 stints that calculates your actual results here. The only reason I can say with so much confidence that Avocado is going to win is because Avocado is automatically won the championship, is because Avocado finished 3rd in Stint 1 by a large margin, 3rd in Stint 2 by a similarly large margin, and we've only had 9 entrants that have been able, well, I think it might be down to 8 now, entrants that have actually done all of Stint 1 and all of Stint 2. Even if Avocado lagged out now, the amount of gap he opened up on the drivers who did lag out in Stint 2, or Delive, who has lagged out now, would be so massive that he would be able to hold it. He would finish this event 9th. Maybe 10th, but I'm pretty sure 9th is the absolute worst he would finish the event. So, yeah. And the calculation that I did said that Avocado could just bring home a 10th place result or better, he would lock up the championship. So it is a little bit napkin mathy, but that is the numbers that I'm looking at and thinking of, assuming that he still attempts to start next month's event. Speaking of which, actually, while I've been talking about that, Avocado has closed back in on ESV Karts here. Karts is just about burnt up his tires. He's already at the 62% wear mark. Avocado still has some extra life in his tires, so he can really put the screws to Karts here. Pipes is still opening the gap, but is not absolutely destroying it. It's just kind of been slowly widening, and I don't feel like Pipes is going to be able to just outrun Karts on track enough to steal the win. I think it may just come down to distance penalties. If Avocado is aware of that, well, again, assuming there's a December Enduro that gets added to the calendar, Avocado is going to want to start putting some big-time pressure on this Viper and try to force Karts to get some more distance penalties here, just so he loses the race win to the McLaren. Look at that around the outside. That was great. That was smooth. That was smooth, Avocado, real smooth. Yes, it helped a lot that Karts' tires are absolutely cooked, but that was fantastic to see. Okay, I think Karts is going to be fine on tires here. When he comes out, there's going to be like 30 minutes and 40 seconds left. And he'll only have to pit one more time around the 15-minute mark. I think he'll be okay on tires. Avocado, if he knows any better, should go ahead and pit at the end of this lap as well, so he doesn't start bleeding off time to Karts. And I would imagine Pipes might want to consider doing something similar. Again, you don't want to be spending time on worn out tires if you can help it. These drivers all have enough of a gap between each other, and I think they've all saved enough tire life. They could probably go to the end without hitting their tires into the 60% mark. It would still be a little close, but I think they could do it. Oh yeah, High Cranky back up in the third for the moment. That probably won't last forever, but... And both Hyphen and Ardno are a lap down for now, but they will... Ardno might stay a lap down, but I think Hyphen's going to likely get his lap back shortly. And here's Avocado, pitting a little bit earlier. Like I said, this is the ideal time to pit, so you wouldn't be wasting a lap on the 60% worn tires. And you'll only have to pit one more time. Now, Pipes is still out there, though. Pipes is still plugging away here. You can probably pit at the end of this lap, though, and still be fine. Ideally, you just don't want to spend time on the orange wear, the moderate wear level of the tires. So I imagine that Pipes could probably pit this time and be okay. Where are Avocado and Karts going to be in relation to each other? Karts is behind Avocado, not by a massive amount, but he is most definitely behind. Now, Karts now is the one who has a tire. He still has a tire disadvantage to Avocado, but is now only a one-lap disadvantage instead of being as massive as it was before. But if Karts and Avocado find each other on track, it is in Avocado's interest to try and make Karts fight him as long as possible and potentially get more distance penalties, because it helps Avocado more if Pipes wins this event, because that is the number 2 team for ESV. And if that number 2 team is the one that wins, it denies 4 more critical points to Karts. I've said the same thing so many times here. I'm so sorry. There's not really been a lot to talk about. This field has shrunk so much today that, yeah, there's not really a lot to talk about on track. I apologize. And yes, Pipes will pit this time by. And we know that Pipes is going to maintain just about all of his lead over this group. Also, Hyphen pitted as well, so Hyphen is going to stay a lap down. That was Hyatt Cranky who pitted out second position. It's gonna be interesting if that duo ends up catching higher cranky a little bit later in the final round of pit stops here. Pipes already accelerating up through turn 1. Has some traffic in the form of Hyphen. Just pulls over and lets them by. He knows that juice is not worth the squeeze right now. Okay, yeah, so Otavio has finally come out of the pits as well. Yeah, I think... Was that their last stop? No, I think they may be doing a 6 stop. They may be doing a hybrid soft-medium strategy. Trying to do a little bit of both here. Yeah, I think they're probably trying to do a little bit of both right now. Okay. Everyone, I think, has exactly one more stop to make at this stage of the event. The fight is on for second place. We'll be back momentarily here at Kylami. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Less than 25 minutes left here in the final stint for the Enduro. Avocado and Karts getting very aggressive. Right now, Avocado's biggest interest is to try and hold Karts up as much as possible so Pipes can build up a nice big gap and potentially steal the event win from this Dodge. These are first and second in the championship right now. And just on the off chance that a December Enduro gets added to the season, you're going to want to try and screw over this Dodge as much as possible and slow him down as much as possible. Now, this Viper does have a bit of a tire disadvantage to the McLaren. It's not as big as it was before, but he has developed a tire disadvantage due to being super early on earlier in this stint. He has gradually been clawing it back, and he should be okay-ish near the end. But that McLaren of Avocado also shouldn't have to worry too much about tire fall-off as this goes on as well. So this is going to be mano y mano. McLaren is the superior car, though, but that's a move! And he made it stick. He said, all right, Avocado, you want to do this. He forced it side by side in the corner that you do not want to go side by side in. But look at this. Karts did not earn any more distance penalties after it all. And while it did hurl them up a bit, Pipes is still maintaining. The majority of Pipes is not opened up a massive gap extra on Karts. So no, I think Karts is still set to win this event overall. That's another distance penalty for Avocado there. Frustrating. Indio Cosmic is in a position where, depending on how the rest of this goes, he might actually end up fighting with High Cranky for 4th spot on circuit. And between the two of them, distance penalty, High Cranky has the advantage, but it's only by 0.003 of a mile. That's just really not much. Is there anything Avocado can do to get back alongside Karts and start causing Karts to lose time again? Try to force that dodge offline. While the McLaren is faster in a straight line, the dodge is so much better on initial acceleration and can brake so much later that it acts as a soft counter to Avocado's McLaren and its superior straight line speed. I do think this McLaren might also be a little bit better in the downforce focused corners. The Dodge might just be running a really low downforce setup because there's just not a lot of downforce focused corners here, so they may be trying to maximize the other type of corner on the circuit, while Avocado may have a higher downforce setup, and that might be helping him close in a bit in turn 4 and also the fourth to last one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think? Turn 9? Ever. Big thing, though, is that Avocado has nearly twice as much distance penalty as Karts does right now, so... But it's not about positioning right now. It is all about total distance. And Avocado just seems to be losing his chance to really screw over ESV Karts' total distance. While Pipes is still pulling, it just does not seem like it's enough. If Pipes was in a position where like he was in an entire different sector compared to Karts and Avocado, I think Pipes might have a legitimate shot at this, but that has not been the case. Also, credit where credit is due, EMC Bunter is still on track to pull off this stint with no distance penalties whatsoever. Less than 20 minutes left. Karts' tires are just about to go through a nasty little stage here, and that will be the best thing that Avocado can ask for. Tavio trying to close in on Indiel Micro there. We're going to go ahead and run silent for a bit, and we're going to ride on board with the flying lap here. Well, at the end of this lap, we're going to ride on board for a flying lap here with Otavio. And that will be our last ad break of the event. When we come back from that, we will be on track to the end of this stint. We'll be broadcasting to the end of the stint. Big twitch and slide by Avocado there. Almost put the bumper on Karts. Almost. Karts needs to stay out for about another 2 more laps. I think he can do one more. He can do this one. I don't know if he can do another lap after that. He's going to be hurting. Oh! A little bit of a shunt from behind. Those front tires are completely cooked. Look at how much Avocado closes right back up in turn 4 there. Goes to the inside, and Karts was completely caught off guard. Was not expecting that. He's going to try to cross over, try to outrun him into the following corner, but he still has to brake early so he doesn't hit him and run both of each other off the circuit. So that's decided, it looks like. Car right behind them is Indiel Ardno, who honestly has been faster than where that positioning suggests. But if you missed it, we did have a big accident earlier that really kind of derailed Ardno's entire day. And he basically had to limp around the track with a near-empty fuel tank that just completely derailed everything for him. Okay, yep, there it is. Karts is paid, and Avocado is going to join him in the pits this time as well. So both these drivers are going to deal with tire fall off at the same time, but I think Karts might actually end up with a very slight advantage. Karts will be a little bit better at managing the tires to the end, but Avocado has the on-track advantage and might be able to open the gap. I'm curious who's going to end up ahead between the two of them when they come out of the pits this time. Cosmic also jumps into the pit lane to make his final stop. Most of the field, I think, is going to be making their final stop this time by. And yep, Avocado maintains his position for now. All right, we're going to go ahead and ride on board with HY Otavio for a full onboard lap on the Mustang. And when we come back, we will stay with this race to the end, to the checkered flag. We'll give you a shot on board the Mustang, which has been popular but woefully underprepared for most scenarios here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kylami. 13 minutes left in the final stint here. We know that Avocado is not going to win or even finish second. The question, though, is going to be Pipes versus Karts. Is Pipes going to be able to open up enough of a gap on ESV Karts on the run to the end that Pipes can steal the victory from Karts? I don't think it's likely, but that is legitimately the only thing of serious note that as we're talking about right now. Although I will also say that Micro and Otavio are in a little bit of a spat between each other, but Micro has a small but not insignificant advantage in distance penalties that would resolve that fight. Similar scenario between Hiya Cranky and Indio Cosmic. However, right now, Hiya Cranky actually has more distance penalties than Cosmic does right now. But Cosmic has been on these tires for a bit. Hiya Cranky literally just pitted, so Cranky has a shot to run away, and you won't have to really worry about tire fall off either. Down the front straightaway for second and third place. That is Ardno, I believe, who still is a lap down. Frustrating time for that number 420 Team Noodle McLaren. I do think between Avocado and Karts will have a little bit of advantage. Dodge is a little bit better on navigating managing its tires. However, I think Avocado wants that. I think Avocado wants Karts to catch him, so the two of them can fight. He can try to get Karts to get more distance penalties or to slow Karts up and try to push him back farther, so he loses even more time to Pipes. I'm going to use the point of interest camera here to try and give you a good idea as to what the gap is in seconds between Pipes and Karts. I'm not really worried about Avocado, it's just Pipes and Karts. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 2012, 2030. That's about 13 seconds difference between them. That's not quite a tenth of a lap. A lap here is about 1 minute and 41 seconds, so that's not quite a tenth of a lap for now. Granted, Pipes has a tire advantage, is in completely clean air. No one is really sharing the track with him outside of the lapped car of EMC Bunter, who just came out of the pits. Thanks you, game. Bunter still trying. No! Oh, and Bunter gets the penalty for cutting the track. So close, 10 minutes left, and the dream is over for Bunter. Curses. One of the very few things to actually be excited about, and it's over. I think you're going to be looking at about 5 more laps from most of the rest of the field. This lap and 5 more laps, I'm thinking. Will be a little bit less for some other drivers. Hiya Cranky now has a lot more distance penalties than Cosmic. Well, not a lot more. It's 0.16 more. 0.016 more. So that's like 60 feet. So right now, Cosmic would have Cranky if they finish nose to tail, but if the gap between them opens up, Cranky will likely still get it. Thing is, I don't know if that gap's going to open up or not. Thing is that Cosmic is on tires already have quite a bit of wear on them. He's in the 29% range. Hiya Cranky on the other hoof is at 22%. Yeah, Cranky should have the advantage there. There is also Micro versus Octavio, but Octavio has significantly more distance penalty, so unless Micro gets the distance penalty or falls off the circuit, that fight is not going to be a factor here. So about 4 more laps left here for this duo. Again, Karts has the tire advantage, a very slight one, but the Dodge doesn't burn through its tires as much, so he now has the tire advantage over Avocado. But alas, the entire point of this, I think, is just to try and back the Dodge up as much as possible. Tire Cranky is basically an entire separate sector almost to this duo. 4th place is farther from this duo than this duo is from the leaders. So Avocado could really back up Karts as much as he wants, and especially in the last 2 corners, just to try and really screw him over. All right, here we go. Karts look for a move. Avocado holds the line though. Downforce corner, and now to the 3rd to last corner, very wide, lots of places to try and do crossovers on exit. Kart's gonna have a really tight inside, Avocado on the outside. Last time they were like this, Avocado backed out. Does he back out this time? No, he does not. It's Karts who backs out, but now he's gonna try and go around the outside in the final corner. And he's denied there as well. But this is what Avocado needs. He needs to keep backing Karts up, keep him slow, keep him off the ideal line, slow his lap times, and if you can get him to get distance penalties, it'd be even better. Dodge now trying to go around the outside in turn 1, puts the power down. Can he be side by side in turn 2? He can. He's side by side in turn 2. They make contact again, and he falls back behind the McLaren once more as they go through turns 3. All right, now it's a straightaway down. Turn 4, another downforce focused corner. Avocado is running more defensive lines, denying Karts the draft. It's slowing himself down, but he is more interested in trying to slow Karts down. To the top of the hill, top of the mountain, and now rushing downhill once more. Again, you can see Avocado trying to get off the ideal line wherever he can just to deny draft to that Dodge. Running as defensive and taking the most inopportune lines possible. Dodge again tries to go to the outside. Can't make it work. Now he's going to try and cross over. Actually got a relatively good exit out of the final corner that time. And now he's in the draft of the McLaren. So he can set up for a good run side by side into the final corner. Avocado defends the inside line. So here comes Karts. Goes deep on the outside to make contact. He slides wide. Was that all he needed? Yes, that is. He's by. Around the outside. Again, he'll have the tire advantage now on the run down. Avocado held Karts up as long as he could, but I think that fight's over now. Karts, his tires are at 56% wear. Avocado, his tires are at 55% wear. So no, actually, Avocado still has a very slight tire advantage somehow. And he is pressuring that Dodge. All right, uphill now once again. I think the best thing that you could do if you're in Avocado's position is just stay in the draft of the Dodge until you get down on the run down to turn 1, then go as deep as possible just to make sure that both of you miss the ideal line. Try to trap that Dodge on the extreme outside. Try to get him to get another distance penalty. That was a bit of a lag, unfortunate. So this will be the last full lap for this duo. So it looks like this duo will probably finish on the front straightaway here. So this is the last full lap for this duo. Is Avocado close enough to make a big dive just to try and spike karts, try to take him away? No, he's not. He thinks better of it. Or I guess in this case, worse of it. I guess Avocado is going to assume that he's done everything he needs to for the championship. To be fair, if we get a December round, it's not like all of a sudden Avocado's championship is completely gone. If we have a small field in the remaining 2 events, if we get a December round, it doesn't really change too much, but still, it is one of those things to definitely consider. Because then Avocado needs to be finishing closer to an average of 3rd in the remaining 2 events, rather than just, you know, starting the final event. Less than a minute left. And that is Ardno, who went a lap down earlier. He's kind of putting a little bit of undue pressure on all of the drivers here. Because he's actually in a little bit better position tire-wise on this run to the end. All right, 1 more overtaking zone left. Avocado, do you go for it? Do you go for an absolutely gigantic move? He does not. But he does put the bumper to the Dodge. Oh, he's off! Well, that ends that. 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Over plow. And it is going to be ESV Pipes, followed by Karts, who was honestly 6/10 off. Then it would be Avocado. 6/10 of a mile off, roughly. I don't think that was enough. I could be wrong, but I don't think that was enough. I think Karts' team may have still won the. Excuse me, may have still won the event overall. We're gonna go ahead and knock out one last ad break, and when we come back, we'll try to get interviews with some of our top finishers here. All right, sweet. Pipes, can you hear me? All right, he's still just gonna wait a bit. Pipes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, are you able to include your audio?
Yes, I did.
All right, awesome. It's gonna wait just a little bit to see if anyone else jumps in here, but it might end up only being you. Okay, I have a feeling it might only end up being you. Oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here. The October Endurance for P1R's SEC is over, and your winner of the final stint and possible, not guaranteed, but possible winner overall is ESV Pipes. Pipes, audio is included. Fantastic drive out there. Just drove away from everyone else about 0.2 of a second a lap faster than your next closest competitor. Where in the world did you find all that extra pace?
You know, I'm not sure. The car just really hooked up and felt great in the warmer temperatures. You know, myself and Raker, we struggled a little bit in the night. The rear end was a little bit loose, hard to put down power, but with the rubber, with the higher temperatures in this stint, it was right on the money.
Yeah, right on the money indeed, mate. You seem to be able to do whatever. Even when you went a lap farther on the tires, you just had no fall off whatsoever. Absolutely incredible stuff what you're able to pull off. So
Yeah, thanks.
you ended up being, according to the data I'm looking at now, you were almost 2/3 of a mile ahead of ESV Karts at the end of Stint 2 here. Do we think, we don't have a rolling mileage counter right now available to me, but do you think that was enough to maybe have clipped Karts for the overall event win?
I'm really hoping so. I'm not sure exactly what the delta was coming into this. I didn't really expect to be able to put together that sort of stint. Wasn't what I expected, at least. But I really hope so. The number that we were just floating around during the call, I was on a call with Parts during the race, was half a mile. So 2/3. Hopefully that's enough.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. But again, we probably aren't going to know for another day or two. But either way, that was a fantastic performance for the first showing of this ESV number 2 team here. Definitely going to be very interested to see what you guys pull off next month in the November Enduro. With that said, Pipes, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. And I hope you have a fantastic day. You should rest well because you definitely earned it with how you drove out there.
Thanks very much.
All right, and that looks like it will be the end of our broadcast here from Kylami. I do want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you all have a good day. We will be back in about a month's time for the next Enduro. Until then, farewell, everybody, and goodbye.